All right, so welcome back to Explain It Slowly. I'm your host, FPS Diesel, and today I have a very prestigious guest. He taught me what Emi-a means. It means presence in blood. He goes by Chubby Emu on YouTube. He is Dr.Bernard, aka Chubby Emu. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for the prestigious guest part.
I mean, you know, first guest with the what? Okay, so if you're a doctor, that'd be a PhD, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So that makes you the smartest person to have been on this podcast. Granted, you're the second guest, so. But I will say I don't think there's gonna be a lot of people with PhDs on here. But you know, I wanted to bring you on because you know medicine is really important right now, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend too much talking about that, but we gotta, because you know you're a doctor or you're a medical oncologist. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What is that for the lay people who don't know what that means?
So in terms of medicine, actually the formal training that I had was in emergency medicine, and then I went to toxicology after that. There was a fellowship for it. And so you do emergency medicine, you see patients in the ER, and then you subspecialize, which means then you look at toxicology. So poisons, majority of those cases are going to be people who accidentally took too much of their prescription medicine by accident. And then I made the move out of academic hospital medicine, and then I went over to oncology, which is cancer.
Okay. And you also teach. So you teach...
Yeah, so
what exactly?
I'm an adjunct professor, and so that's just a fancy title for saying like I'll sub in for various lectures on whatever topics that they might have, if in the case somebody doesn't show up. So I actually haven't lectured for I think 2 years, but I'm available for them to talk about whatever subject. So a lot of times they have me do like the hyponatremia lecture. And so the way that it works in like medical and pharmacy schools is that you actually don't have like the same teacher, you know, in college where you have like, you know, one professor and like you see them like every Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
In medical schools, what they do is they have a course coordinator. And so for the whole term, a semester or quarter or whatever they do, you have one point person who will actually cover like some of the topics, but then they actually invite lecturers here and there. So if they want to talk about breast cancer, for example, 1 week, then they actually bring in a breast cancer doctor to talk about it. And then the next week's going to be lung cancer. So they bring in an actual lung cancer doctor. And so you see the course coordinator at like test day, and then, you know, to argue with about grades and finals and all of that. But in general, you show up to the lecture and the person who's teaching you is different every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very different from what I'm doing in liberal arts college. It's just a bunch of people who talk about movies all day.
Yeah, you're in film
it's the
school,
same
right?
people. Yeah, I'm in film school. I'm, you know, trying to be the next Kubrick, and I make YouTube videos about Tana Mojo shaking her butt.
No, that's awesome, because it's like when I got into YouTube 5 years ago, like you can tell in the old videos that I have no idea what I'm doing, and like there's like so many like principles of being like in video, like on camera, and like also like principles of like art, like when you're drawing, like you know you want the depth because you're on like a 2D piece of paper. And like, I mean, if you're staring at a computer screen, you're at like, you know, a two-dimensional screen and you want to make it three-dimensional. Like, there's like basic stuff like that. I had no idea. And so like a lot of my early videos are just me rambling. And
Your early videos, when I was watching some of them before this, you just put such a smile on my face because it was so weird to hear you swear the first time. You know? I was so used to the very serious tone of your videos, and then it's like you playing Nuclear Throne, and you're like, fuck! And I'm like, Or
Yeah, it was that was just such an odd time. Like a lot of people will ask, because not a lot of people do go back to the old videos, and I'd encourage them to not, just because they were basically an experiment for me. Because back around like 2015, 2016, I was just like, I don't know, pissed off with where I was, and I was playing this game, Nuclear Throne, a lot, and at the time. Someone had suggested to me, you know what? Like, if you force yourself to have to make like Let's Plays every time you play the game, like you're not going to want to play the game. And I was like, all right, I guess like I could give it a shot. And so the person who had suggested it to me, they were like, yeah, I think you have it in you to like, do video and to like, appear in front of the camera, because it's like in terms of like, it's not really performing art, but it's like making something that you can call your own. And that was just kind of how I got into it. And like, those early videos, like I think I made my channel at the end of September in 2015, but like I had spent all of September trying to like practice like talking while I was playing and all of this. And like, it was really hard for me. And I don't think I showed up on camera for like the first like 10 or 20 videos or something. But yeah, it's like, if I could go back to school, like at a university setting, like seeing film school, I would love to, because it's like for my videos now, I try to make it a little bit more cinematic, hiring actors and all of this stuff just to make it a little bit more realistic. And it's tough, man. Like I don't know how you guys do it.
I when I look at your old content, you're very professional in these videos, and I love your videos. You do a great job with the cinematography and making them cinematic. You really go above and beyond a lot of what other medical YouTubers do. They'll talk and give information, but you weave in that visual narrative that I really think, at least for me, it helps keep me occupied. Granted, the information is interesting to me because there was a point before film school I had spent like a year doing like exercise science and, dealing with all the body science and all that, and it was incredibly difficult, but it's interesting to be able to get such good information presented so well. I will say though, some of your old videos are very interesting to learn about your hobbies, and part of the reason I wanted to get you on, right?
Yeah.
Aside from you being a big genius, is actually because you power lifted. You have some serious gains, sir.
Oh man, that was back in college, man. It was actually, it was even before that. It was in high school. Like I had gotten into the competitive mindset because I was like a fat kid growing up. I think when I was in 6th grade, I was like 230 pounds or something. And I remember like, I think it was going into my junior year of high school. My friends came up to me during the summertime and they were like, "Hey Bernard, like you're a mega fat ass. Like we got to see how much you can lift." And I was like, "Okay, I guess, And so like we went into like I think a YMCA, and like they threw on like 25s on each side for the bench press, and they're like, "Yeah, Bernard, can you do this?" And it's like I had never even like bench pressed in my life, so it was like all wobbly and everything, and like I just like did like a set of 10, and like to them they were like, "Whoa, that's a lot," and I was like, "That wasn't that much," and they're like, "Can you bench press a plate?" And so they put on like the 45s. And like I did like another set of 10, and like that was my second set ever bench pressing, and they're like, "What? Like we've been doing this for like a year and a half and we still can't do that?" And like to me, like I just kind of got it in my mind like, "Hey, why don't I try to see how much I can bench?" And like eventually that led into when I was in college to start doing like the actual competition for powerlifting. And you go to the powerlifting gym, you go to like those real hardcore places where the guys are like, squatting 700 pounds on a warm up. And it's like, that I did that all throughout college. And I'm just looking back on it now, I'm just so glad I did it back then, because it's like you build a base of muscle like early in your 20s, and it's like it stays with you. And like, the mindset, even though like I might be focusing on different things and I'm not doing powerlifting right now, like it kind of teaches you dedication. and that, you can't make excuses. Like, you got to go that day, then you got to go. It doesn't matter like what else you have scheduled. You have to go, it's one of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I had also started lifting senior year of high school. I actually used to be 300 pounds, and,
Nice.
and at 5'9", 300 pounds really shows. So I what happened? Yeah, no, a girl broke up with me, which is always a catalyst for every guy getting in the gym,
Yeah.
And what happened is I would walk to the gym from high school, so I'd walk like a quarter mile to the nearest like Planet Fitness. I'd be working out all the time. I didn't get into powerlifting until like college as well, where I was like, in there all the time. That dedication you like learn from going to the gym is so important. And I would constantly keep trying to get people to do it because it just made such a big difference for me. But that the powerlifting is some serious shit. There was what were some of your PRs? Because I was looking at those videos of you at like meets, and there's weight on there.
Yeah. It was, let's see, I competed at the 198 weight class and then the 220 weight class. I'm 6'0", so that's still kind of light for the height. Like they actually told me, they're like, yeah, you got to be 275 plus if you want to like realize your maximum. And so I never weighed more than I think 240 in competition. It was just too much for me to have. And you're eating like the family size Stouffer lasagna, and then you're drinking like a gallon of milk, and like it's just not good, right? And let's see, my highest squat was 625. Bench press was 435, and deadlift was 550.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could never even get close to that. I mean, like, now I'm just in the gym to be fit. I'm guessing you're the same way now. I mean, doing powerlifting forever is, like, physically taxing on the body.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I couldn't imagine that I'd still be doing it. It was after I got hit by a car. And after that, I wasn't able... Like, I did compete, like, 5 months after I got hit, but then it wasn't the same. Like... I qualified for nationals, and then I got hit by a car, and then I couldn't actually compete at nationals, so I had to do like the state level meet in March of that year. But yeah, the whole thing was screwed up. But yeah, it was I don't know, I learned a lot from it, and I'm glad I did it, and I kept with it for some time after I stopped competing. But then probably by the time that I started YouTube, I go to the gym for maintenance. I kind of hate that mindset, but it's like, I still go, right? I still force myself to go. It's like, there's no excuses. You got to do it,
Yeah, it's for sure. I mean, like, I'm also not like, after I started YouTube, I just can't like dedicate, like I would dedicate hours and hours of my life to the gym. I'd go to the gym for like 2 hours, and then I would just do the whole clean eating where I'd eat like boiled chicken, brown rice, and broccoli.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, I thought I was going to be the next Arnold. Little did I know those guys take tons of drugs.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just that too, but it's like the planning that they have is so meticulous. It's like, it's hard to describe. Like I got a video coming out on Monday where, because I did that fat loss vlog in 2017, right before I started doing the medical videos. And like I worked with my old coach who I lost 60 pounds with, like, 10 years before that. And, he was telling me about, right before the show, the bodybuilders, they'll do this thing called drying out. And what they do is that they're at like, 2% body fat at that point, and they just need that extra push to be like ultra ripped for their show. And to dry out, they actually manipulate their hormones so that they throw their body in a state where it's like flushing out as much water as they can. And so when they do that, it's like, then that's how you see that like ultra shredded, super dry look that you see on stage. But you can only hold that for like a day or two after, and then your body rebounds the hormones out. So it's just tough. It's like anybody who does like strongman, powerlifting, even like the CrossFit competitions and bodybuilding, like all that stuff is like there's so many like mental barriers that you have to break. And like if you ever do one, like you'll learn that, you know, this is how you bring yourself to the limit. It teaches you more than just like lifting, for example. It teaches you, you know, dedication and consistency.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. And I mean, when you get up to those incredibly high levels, the things people do, like in powerlifting, just to put on like 5 extra pounds could like cost them their knees if their knees buckle on a squat.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everybody's seen those videos where somebody does a leg press and their knees like lock out.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it now. That stuff is, oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely miss the more competitive aspect of fitness myself. I used to do the Spartan races, which I guess is like the CrossFit kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I had gotten injured like climbing over a wall, but that stuff it's completely mental. Like getting through something like that is a mental game of keeping yourself going, just like going to the gym all the time. But yeah, I saw like your videos and your weight loss and it was like watching a different guy. I personally, I like that content. I like that. If I could see the day in the life of Bernard, I would be okay with that.
You know, so what's funny about those videos, like the fat loss, I got, by the end of like 2016, I was like, you know, kind of burnt out from the video games. And I'm like, you know, I'm not taking YouTube seriously because like I would, you know, the fun fact about those nuclear throne videos actually, especially like the later ones, is that I'm actually not narrating while I'm playing. Like I actually like recorded myself playing and then I talked over it again a second time. And then I just like threw those together in like a timeline in Premiere and just like uploaded that. And so, and like nobody was watching at the time. I think like you put out a video and like in the first hour you'd get like 50 views or something. And I think I had like 7,000 subs at the time. And it was just like numbers like that. And I'm just like, you know, I'm not taking this shit seriously. And so by 2017, I was also like, you know, 230 pounds again, 220, 230. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, I got to get myself out of this. Like, I don't know what the heck happened. And so hire that coach. And I'm just thinking, you know, I need to learn how to make better videos. So I'm like, why don't I just fat loss vlog it? And so, you know, the first couple videos of that fat loss vlog, I actually really liked making them. But you get to like, I don't know, week 7 or week 8. I don't even remember like which videos, like what I was talking about in those. And it was just like, people were clicking in to like see like the first 10 seconds to see if I had actually lost weight. And then they just click off. And like, it was like, people weren't watching it. And, you know, they go back now and then they see it and they're like, damn, this is totally different. But it's like, you know, I started to get pissed off like when I stopped lifting. Or no, not stopped lifting, but when I like finished that fat loss cycle, and I was like, what do I do with YouTube? Because it just kind of seemed like another dead end. And then I got into those, like, I had a couple tech videos, I had a little tech phase going on, and then that led into how the medical videos are done.
Wow, damn. I always like seeing that transition that YouTubers make from when they're just kind of like figuring it out. And by the way, there's actually, I think Donkey records like gameplay and then records over it with audio for his videos. So there's definitely like Let's Players that are doing that. But it's interesting to see that creative growth that you made over time. And now you're doing these cinematic videos where you're recording with, what was it, a C200 Mark II?
Yeah, that was, I got that one back, I think, in 2018. And, like, I had no idea how to use it for, like, 2 years. And, like, I think now I'm kind of getting an idea. But it's such a hard camera to use. You know, I don't know. The thing's weird.
Yeah, that's some cinema camera stuff that you're using.
Yeah, I'm thinking about ditching it for the Black Magic cameras, but you know, I actually have some longer form content that I'm looking to make soon, And so it's like you're not going to bring like a black magic to, something like, because I live in DC, right? And so like I was at the Supreme Court like a couple days ago when there was a bunch of people there. The justice who had passed, her body was like up on the steps at the court, and I'm just like, you don't bring a cinema camera to this. Like you bring like a camcorder or like a mirrorless or something, and you zoom in and all that stuff. And it's like bringing like a black magic with like a 35 millimeter prime lens, like that's a no-go right there.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna get some looks. I mean, as far as like small form factor cameras, I mean, I've been looking to switch to Sony because Canon's just not doing it for me. And since I do like commercial videography, like outside of YouTube, like I just need something that can perform and is much smaller. I don't have like magical amounts of YouTube dollars, but like there's like the Sony A7S III, and I keep looking at that. I'm like, ooh, that's so fancy. I'm gonna buy that.
Yep, I have that pre-ordered. So, I had to change my pre-order, so I was wondering if they're gonna like delay it by a month or something. Because like I know some people have gotten it. I think like what Jarvis Johnson was saying that he pre-ordered it. It's like a whole bunch of YouTubers have it.
I mean, that's definitely going to become a main driver for a lot of YouTubers, just the specs on that thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely the switch now to, like, 4K and mirrorless. Granted, I'm not knocking this C200,
If
you know how
camera.
to use it, it's good, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's definitely there's a different level of what you need to learn when you're working with something like that. I will say it pays off in your videos.
Thanks. What's funny is I like a couple weeks ago I was like tweeting like all this like shit posting about cameras and whatever, and like what is it, like washing the lenses in the dishwasher or some shit. Apparently somebody told me, they were like, hey, some camera company wanted to send you some camera equipment, but then they saw your tweets and then they hesitated, and I'm like, what? I'm like, come on, you guys have to know those are jokes, right?
I mean, companies get very like hesitant now with like Twitter, so I try not to tweet so much because like,
oh yeah,
every time I have an opinion, I see people like unfollow me that were like mutuals, and I'm like, I'm sorry. But you shitpost all the time on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, it's a low key message to say that like a lot of the stuff on Twitter it's like kind of hard to take seriously. And it's like I leave the really serious stuff for the videos where I can explain, the thought process and the science behind things. And like with Twitter, I mean, you have what is it? However many characters, and it's like I don't know how much you can actually put on there. And like you just see the craziness with like what's going on right now, especially with like, now the president has COVID. Like it's just even people in a professional capacity are just saying like the hot takes that these people have. And just because they have their degree after their name, it's like, that message gets amplified. And I'm looking at it from like my standpoint. I'm like, yeah, you it's subjective here. Like, people should know, but you're I don't know. You should just know that it's a hot take,
No, I try to be the same way now, where I don't talk about a serious thing unless I can talk about it like in a video.
Yeah.
So for example, I haven't talked about it like on Twitter, but there is like a shitload of these YouTube channels ran by North Korea.
Really?
Yeah, they have fake YouTubers and everything now, like running out of Pyongyang. And I wanted to tweet out like what was happening. Right, but then I like now I tweet something like that, and somebody's like, North Korea is not such a bad place.
Oh God!
And I'm like, what's the point of even saying something on Twitter? So I try to not give opinions anymore. It is so hard. I don't know how you do it. Like you know, like you are qualified to know what's going on, but you resist the urge. That's very admirable.
Thanks. I mean, there's so many times where I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, there's so many like salty things I could tweet out right now, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, no, I'm not. Like, it's like there's stuff that like you come across and that you see and that things that from experience, And it's like I could tweet this. I totally could tweet this. I already have it typed out. I could press that button. But you know what? I'm going to tweet out a picture of moldy pizza or some shit,
No, that's like I'll do that too, where I'll type out a tweet and it's like a just ravenous hot take, and then I'm like, not today.
Yeah.
Today's not the day. Were you blocked by Elon Musk, or what had happened with that? Because I saw you tweeting mocking him at one point.
Yep.
I can't remember, but I have this vague memory of you roasting the shit out of him.
So I don't know. He said something about like California hospitalizations or something. This was like back in April, so like very early pandemic. And there was like this CGI like model. I think it was from like a Unity asset store or something. And like people had been posting it, and I had been posting it actually all throughout like the end of last year. And so it had shown up in his like replies a couple times. Like I had posted it. And so this time he posted some weird statistic, and like kind of looked at it. I'm like, it's kind of cherry picking numbers, but all right. And so I just replied with that picture of the CGI model where he's bald. And then it was like, I think within like 2 minutes, I like went back to the profile and it said I was blocked. And I'm like, wait, what? And like, it was at like 1:30 in the morning at like my time when it happened. And I'm just like, what the hell? And so like, I just like screenshotted it, and like I tweeted it out that I was blocked by Elon Musk after replying this bald CGI head. And then like the tweet went viral. It got like 400,000 likes or something. And like, I don't know, people thought it was hilarious. And like, what's funny is I think that reply got like muted or something. Cause like anytime that picture shows up in his replies, like it gets pushed down to like the show more. And I don't know, it's weird, but I thought it was hilarious. He ended up unblocking me, but I never said anything. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Elon Musk, if you're listening, it would have been nice if you reached out to Dr. Bernard and issued him a nice apology. Maybe throw in a free Tesla. Come on.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, like people thought it was hilarious. And like, it just kind of goes to the fact of like, you can do a hot take on Twitter, and like, if my response is meaningless, like it's kind of like a low key saying like, whatever said on this website is meaningless to begin with. So, might as well just have fun with it,
Yeah. No, it's Twitter just makes me sad.
Yeah.
So I try not to be on it as much anymore. I took like I took like a 30-day detox. I watched have you ever seen the YouTuber Matt Diavella?
Yep.
Yeah, I watched his video about the social media detox. I'm like, I'm going to do that. And I didn't want to tell anybody. I was just going to leave Twitter for a bit. And I did. And I passed the month. And then 3 months later, I'm just like, I'm good. I'm not using Twitter, But now, it's like I need to be able to promote my videos. I guess I got to tweet occasionally.
The thing I found out actually, like even tweeting out my videos doesn't help out that much. And so like I'm on Twitter, like the people I follow in general are pretty positive, or like, there's like it's funny because like you'll have what is it, like Your Movie Sucks, like I have him on my timeline, and then like next to it I have like MD PhD talking cancer research. So like you see some Lion King shit post, and then the next thing's like some serious cancer research, and it's like like looking at my timeline, I'm just like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, I tried to like, I was like, I need to be able to get opinions from people that I wouldn't normally hear opinions from. So I try and like follow the political scene on Twitter. Big mistake. My timeline is a mess.
What's funny about like political Twitter is like, even like living in DC, like I can talk to some of these politicians. Like, I've met these senators, right? And like in person, like they're just different when the cameras aren't rolling. And it's like, you talk with them, and some of them are super nice people. You see them on TV and, they look like, the second coming of the devil, but they're actually really nice people. And it's like, it's kind of weird how the message comes out like that. And it's like, I know a little bit of a different person, but who knows?
What is the experience of living? I mean, especially now, what is the experience of living in DC even like? Because I could just imagine it's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but it might not be. I've never been.
It really isn't. Like, I mean, with like, I can go to the Capitol, you can go to like the Senate and the representatives, like office buildings and all of that. I was there when the church across the White House was somebody set a fire in the basement. And so like I was only there to like look really quick before I left, like once like there was like tear gas in the air. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even out here like protesting. I'm just here to see because, I'm not too far away. And so like once that kind of stuff came out, it was like, it maybe shouldn't be here. But aside from that, it isn't like in the daytime, you don't really see much. Like you'll see maybe sometimes on like Friday, Saturday nights, there might be some stuff going on. And like, you can see it on Twitter because like, there's like those like indie news channels trying to like tweet out about it and whatever. But like DC folks, like, people from here, they can usually identify people who are from here, and they can tell when people aren't from DC are here at, like the Supreme Court. Like last week, there was only like one group outside of the court when the president nominated the new justice. And so that was different from 2 years ago when there was like 5 organized groups, talking about Justice Kavanaugh, right? So that was there was like 2 pro-Kavanaugh groups and then like 3 anti-Kavanaugh groups, and like they started clashing a little bit. But what's funny is actually like what you saw behind like the news media cameras was that there was actually more people watching these groups clash than there were like people in front of the cameras. And so that was always interesting to me, is that the dynamic here, like I guess when you're in person you can have a different conversation than on Twitter for sure.
That's really interesting to hear how like just how there's people just standing around watching protests go on. I mean, like, you go there or like you live there and you feel like you need to be a part of like the process more, at least from my perspective. Like being in New York, I can also tell when somebody's not from the city. Like I'm not from the city, but I've been there so much now that now it's like a second home to me. But it's like you can tell when people are like staring up at buildings, they're like, oh, that's a tourist, Yep. And you can tell who's like a quote unquote real New Yorker by where they go and what they're doing and like what they're seeing, kind of deal.
Yep.
But I know, at least according to my girlfriend who lives in Brooklyn, there was a moment where it was that post-apocalyptic like moment. But I feel like you look on Twitter, you look on the news, and it's just a completely different thing than what you're actually going to experience. So it's nice to know that it's not just like something I'm experiencing in a vacuum, and that I'm not alone in that. But the closest I've gotten to DC is Baltimore. Okay. I remember you messaging me when I went to Baltimore.
Oh yeah, that's right. I told you to go get crab cakes at that restaurant, right?
Dude, I didn't want to go anywhere in Baltimore. It was scary.
Yeah, depending on where you stayed, like I'll go up to like Johns Hopkins for some research stuff, and like if you drive through like the wrong place, even in the daytime, it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't be here.
Yeah, it was like beyond Thunderdome, like Mad Max style ridiculousness when I was there. I didn't try to crab cakes. I'm sorry.
I think that place is like just outside of Baltimore. I think it's in like one of the first suburbs on the outskirts of the city. But it's like every time I go up north, like I have to stop by that restaurant. It's so good.
I'd say I missed out, but I had a vivid experience in Baltimore.
Yeah, didn't you say you had like roaches in like the Airbnb?
There was roaches in my Airbnb, and the guy that we had went to like split the Airbnb with, first of all, he was a huge ass. He took the big like bedroom, and if you were the couple, give him that bedroom.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't, and our room had a giant hole in it. Oh. So he could hear us sitting in like the living room, and he would sit all night just drinking drinking my liquor that I bought.
What? Oh, that's bogus.
And yeah, it was a mess, and the Airbnb people were not nice, and God, it was such a disaster. Bronycon was great though, you know.
Yeah,
We'll
did you
do
say
it
you had
again.
like that you made a video about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I went to BronyCon.
Oh, man.
I met the bronies. Nice people. You know, I know it sounds weird, but they're actually really cool. You know, if you've never been to a BronyCon,
You know, I got a question.
You know?
So someone had actually said in one of my replies on Twitter that I have a lot of furry followers because they think that Chubby Emu is like a fursona. I don't know if that's true or not.
Are you a furry? Is
No,
an emo
you know-
your persona?
No, I mean the thing is like it's like an internet name that I've had for like what 23 or 24 years now, and so like I've just always used it. But like I mean I don't really know that much about furry like culture or anything, and so like someone had mentioned it. I'm like you know okay maybe I don't know.
Okay. It's not a fursona unless you identify with your name as like it's like an extension of your personality, right? Like when you have a fursona, that's you, but as an animal, right? So would you ever see yourself as an emu?
No.
Not as an anthropomorphized like Disney emu.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, the icon that I have was drawn by one of my colleagues' sister, and so, like, I would always thought about changing it because it's like not. I mean, it's okay, but it was just kind of something I like threw together in Illustrator. But like the Chubby Emu name, like that was like my WoW name back in like 2004. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna ask where the name had come from, because I mean you hear Chubby Emu and then it's like, oh, medical videos.
Yeah, it's it was, I think, what is it? It was like 97 or 98, and I had gotten like wisdom teeth pulled, and so like you know you're just kind of like loopy afterwards, and then you're still on painkillers and all of that, and so I wrote this poem about a chubby emu, and you know when I woke up the next day I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna create like an AOL Instant Messenger. Name is Chubby Emu. And that was it. That's been my internet name ever since.
Little do you know that was the birth of you slowly turning into a furry over the course of your life.
Yes. I don't know. Were there furries back in the 90s? Like, I don't.
There were furries. So I had done some. I was gonna go to a furry convention.
Okay.
And I was gonna do like a documentary on furries. I'm glad I get a year to practice on getting better at this. Before that, but. Yeah, furries have been around since the 70s or 60s.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They're probably one of the first internet like communities to exist, period. They've been around for a long time. And I mean, if you want to count like Aesop's fables and old ancient tales about animals talking, furries might have existed, prehistory.
Interesting.
They've been around a very long time.
Okay.
But yeah.
I think I might have known like one or two furries, and like I don't know, it seemed like they were nice people. And like I think anything on the internet's gonna get like colossal amounts of hate, but it's like I don't judge.
Yeah, no, I don't judge either. There's definitely furries have been around so long that there's all these like things about them that people believe, but most of them you realize like aren't true. Like not every single furry is like this incredibly horny person who has sex in a mascot costume. Just not everybody's like that. I mean, obviously.
I mean, there's like some like families. It's like the mom, dad, and kid, like they all dress up as like animals, right?
The God, what's his name from Insane Clown Posse? His daughter is a furry, so he dressed up as a furry for his like 9-year-old daughter.
Oh, nice.
And there's a picture of him like on the internet in a fursuit. But, yeah.
Okay.
Oh God, is it? I want to say Jay is Silent Bob, but that's the Clerks guy. Oh my God, I can't remember. I don't listen to ICP. But yeah, no, I could see why furries might assumed that based on the name. It sounds like it.
Yeah, somebody
but,
had mentioned
it's good. If it's your brand now, like I couldn't imagine you not having the icon you have now.
Oh,
personally.
yeah. No, I mean, there's no way that it's ever getting changed. So it is as it is. And so
I'd say it's iconic, personally. I quite like it. I think it fits.
Thanks. And like
Okay,
the color
so-
scheme and all that. Oh, so go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like I had like a color scheme written out and everything, and you can kind of tell by like looking at the icon. It's like, what is that thing? Is that a bird running with fat thighs?
So let's get into the questions, because I had levied some questions to the audience, and I don't know if this is something I'm going to keep doing for the podcast, because I've always had an audience that's just not great at asking questions. But you are a doctor, so maybe we get some interesting ones. People wanting their questions answered about their health.
Oh, there's some interesting ones right now. I can already see them. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting ones. This isn't even a question, really, but I saw this one and I had to like the tweet. Since what a guy eats affects how his semen tastes, what would it taste like if he only ate semen?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, let me expand this. How does, like, when we eat things, right? Why does sometimes that, like, secretes, or like you can smell it on like a person's body? Do you happen to have an answer for that?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. It's like you hear these, like, I don't even know if they're urban legends, but there are people saying like if you eat pineapple, then that's better for it or something, or like strawberries. But then there's like other fruits like bananas that don't help. I don't know. I don't know if there's a good explanation for it. Because the thing is, like, the sperm in your body that you let out on any particular day was actually like made like anywhere from 120 to 90 days ago, and so it's been a while. So whatever you got now, it's October now, so it probably was made in like May or June, and so I guess the extra gland secretion is I don't know. I guess there's some influence based on your diet, but
I didn't know that sperm was made so far in advance like that. I thought it just happened whenever you were like nut.
Yeah. So what's interesting actually. So in a lot of like the research that we do for like cancer medicines, right? If there's actually like dysfunction in that area, they actually advise that you don't have sex for like 3 to 4 months, because there might be birth defects, like especially if you're planning to have kids. So that actually that's a really sensitive topic in trying out medicines, because it's like there's actually a reason why medicines aren't tried out in women first. The reason being is that if you damage their eggs, you could potentially permanently damage it, whereas if you give it to a man and you happen to have reproductive damage, it'll only be for a couple months. And so that's their justification for it. It also depends on if the person is willing to take on the risk of being the first person in the world to try a particular medicine. And they're not giving that person the medicine for a disease. They're giving that person the medicine to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, why is mitochondria the powerhouse of the cell? I feel like I should know this, because you hear it all the time going through high school, but I honestly don't even know why or what the mitochondria does anymore.
So it makes ATP, right? And so that's like kind of the energy molecule, because once it breaks off, because it's adenosine triphosphate. So you break off one of those phosphates and you release energy, because you transfer electrons when that happens. So there was like a theory that a long time ago in the primordial soup, that there was a single-celled organism that ate a bacteria, and then the bacteria, in order to survive, started making energy for the thing that ate it. And so that genealogy was passed down, and you now have a mitochondria.
So, I mean, like, calling it the powerhouse, I feel like it should be the nucleus that's the powerhouse, because that's like the big thing.
So actually, there's a bunch of different mitochondria. Like in any one cell, there's like hundreds or thousands of mitochondria. The nucleus has like all the DNA in it.
Okay, so that is where like your self is, like the code that makes up you.
Yeah. And so like all your genetic information is in the nucleus, and like, there's hormones that your body will give off that, the hormones will actually go through the cell and then actually go into the nucleus and then, do something with the DNA. And so like if you have cancer, for example, like a lot of times, the DNA was mutated, and that comes out from that one cell that had that weird thing happen in its nucleus that happened to survive, and then also, pass on its aberrant DNA now, and then that's what causes the cancer. One part of what causes the cancer, anyways.
So this isn't a question, but I gotta ask, right? Is there a reason you specify so frequently Emi-a means presence in blood? or is that because it's such a common thing that shows problems?
So a lot of the like issues, it's like there's a lot of confusion sometimes, because it's like if you have hypoxia, how is that different from hypoxemia, right? And so hypoxemia means that there's no oxygen in the blood. There isn't a lot of it. Hypoxia would mean in the tissue there isn't a lot of oxygen. So there's a difference when there isn't enough oxygen in the blood versus when there isn't enough oxygen in the liver, so for example. And so I have to explain it every video, because I can't expect that somebody who's watched my videos before would know what Emi-a means. And so every single video on Chubby Emu has to explain the words. And so that's why almost every single video you hear Emi-a means presence in blood. On my own podcast channel, I don't have to explain it, because I assume that it's a more medical audience watching. And so, yeah.
So there was two people that had asked this question, but they're asking about human bodies and their regenerative abilities. Basically, they're asking, why can like we repair skin when we get a scrape, but when there's like organ damage, how come it doesn't heal on its own, basically? Or how come when there's like a defect in a child, like one person asked, and there's like one of the chambers, like a hole in the heart?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, why is it that those things don't get fixed?
So the skin is a little bit different. The skin on the outermost layer is mostly dead cells, and so you actually have like a turnover from like the bottommost layer will eventually come up to be that topmost layer after, however many months. And so the tissue is a little bit different. Actually, like if you look at skin cells under a microscope, if you graft the skin from like, the back of your palm versus your actual palm, it's actually different cells, right? And so that healing, like you'll still have scarring sometimes if you have like a very deep cut on your skin. So like that scarring does transfer over to the organs. If there's, bleeding in, say, the stomach, like you could eventually grow scar tissue in there. And so I would say it's not quite, it doesn't heal. It just depends on what kind of damage had happened in that organ, and different organs can suffer different kinds of damage. So that depends. And then talking about the hole in the heart with a kid, that's called patent ductus arteriosus. That's usually the medicine that they give is actually in the same class as like ibuprofen. And so that like anti-inflammatory, that one, I need to read up a little bit more on it, but the drug is indomethacin that they give for it, but it does help close it up a little bit. I'm not sure if it closes up the whole thing. I have to look back.
This isn't a question that is medical in nature, but somebody wants you to do a medical video without a shirt.
There's videos in the fat loss vlogs where I don't have a shirt on. So if you want to see what I look like, they're there.
I gotta ask, why don't you take down the old videos or like private them? If you don't encourage people to watch them.
I've wanted to. Every time I do, I feel like parts of the channel dies. Like you actually see the numbers like actively go down. Like when you private even just one video, and it's like it could be a video that nobody's watched for like 3 or 4 years, and then like you private it and you just like start to see the numbers go down, and it's like did I sin in the system or something? What's going on here? Like, did I sin to the YouTube gods?
Yeah, so there's actually, when that happens, they don't want to include those privated videos in your statistics.
Yeah.
So they, like, strike them from the thing. I had probably, like, 300-400 videos prior to, like, rebranding the channel. And I just see for a while my graphs were just all, like, you're in the tank, you're doing horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, because I privated a bunch of old videos, and every now and again I'll go back and I'll private something that I don't think fits the brand, and it'll just completely ruin the graph for like an entire month.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, the last time I privated a video was I think like November of last year, and like it took like 5 months for the thing to come back, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. Like if you want.
Yeah, I gotta ask some other YouTubers this, but I hear that if you don't get rid of those videos from your channel, it can impact the channel.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but it can.
Yeah, I've heard it can affect CPMs if you have like sensitive stuff. Like I think Mr. Beast had like a video where he was like shooting like bottles or something. Like he was shooting something with a gun. Like I think, didn't he shoot like 1,000 pieces of paper or something? Like, can a bullet go through like 1,000 sheets of paper?
I can't remember.
Yeah, there was something about that, and then like it had like 50 million views or something, and then he ended up privating it, and I think somebody had said that it was actually adversely affecting his channel, but I don't know.
Huh. Well, let's see. Jesus, all these. There's people that are like, can you jerk off and defecate simultaneously? I mean, that one's like yeah, probably, but like, but would you want to? That's the question. Okay. Could you ask him how far along tissue engineering has come? How long does he believe until we can generate a functional finger, toes, or digits on a pet's paw? Will it ever advance past that? And can we grow big pee-pee?
You can grow big pee-pee, but then you'd have to put it on somehow. And to put it on somehow would mean that you'd have to cut off what you have now.
Yeah, I don't know if many people would sign up for that.
Yeah. Yeah, the tissue engineering stuff is kind of interesting because it's like, you know, there are some regenerative things. It's like, you know, you hear some operations where like, you know, they'll amputate somebody's limb and then reattach it to like the side of their leg just to get some blood flow so that it stays alive, and then reattach it later. Yeah, some of those things are, I mean, those are like pretty experimental right now. It's like face transplants, right? Those are pretty experimental too, but you know, they actually have worked successfully. And so I don't know, like a lot of times the advances in this kind of stuff, it's hard to say, because in reality, some of the stuff isn't new. And like, you know, some of the stuff is maybe 40, 50, 60 years old. And, you know, that's the thing about medicine, is that it's not as flashy and brand new as like, you know, iPhones and Macs and all that stuff. Like consumer tech, you know, seems to move at a lot faster pace than anything else in the world. Whereas, you know, medical stuff, I mean, hell, we're still taking aspirin, right? And it's like, you know, they made that as a drug in like, you know, more than 100 years ago. And so it's like, you know, you wouldn't use electronics from 100 years ago. So it's like, but you're still using medicine. It's just because it's inherently different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like, especially now, you kind of see how like long medicine takes, because, you know, we're all waiting for the vaccine so that way life can go back to normal, or whatever the original normal will be once this is over.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the world is going to be permanently changed now. It's just kind of like what did 1938 look like versus 1946, right? It was only 8 years difference, but it was just a completely different world.
Now, I just remembered this. I meant to ask you this earlier when we were talking about your history. I watched one of your videos about your ex.
Oh no.
The one who went to jail.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago. That was in college.
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, would you like to at least give a TLDR of that? Because that's interesting. I listened to that. It was funny as hell.
Oh man, I don't even remember which video that was. But yeah, I was back in college, and Chicago's a pretty segregated city, which kind of sucks. Like that's just like one of the negatives about it. And like you have like the downtown area, you have the south side, you have the west side, and then in the west side you have like the suburbs, and like the beginning of the suburbs. There's like a continuum of how it's set up out there, and so I grew up in one of the western suburbs, and so like by the time you get to like the furthest one out from the train line, you have like a continuation of like the immediate west suburbs. So like the one that comes out right out of Chicago is Cicero and Berwyn, and then by the time you get to the end of that same train line, you get to Aurora. And so like the communities are actually interconnected between those cities, and I think they're connected by the train line. And I had this girlfriend, and it was interesting because you're in college, and like your group of friends, like none of them are in college, and they're into some stuff that's a little bit out of the ordinary, that you're not used to. And it was just interesting because like I think we were in Cicero, and what is it? It was her brother, and like her brother was like my good friend, and like he was the one who like connected us. And I don't know, I think we walked by, what is it? God, what was it? It was his ex-girlfriend's then current boyfriend, and they were just talking shit. And what was the line? Hey, how do you feel to know that your girlfriend's, or no, my dick's been in your girlfriend's mouth, something like that?
Yeah.
Isn't that what I said? Yeah. And
that's what you said.
Yeah. And then what is it? Then he beat the dude up, and like I was kind of in shock because I'm just like, what the hell's going on? Like he like beat the dude up and like put him down on the ground and like put him in just a chokehold and said like, next time you see her, tell her that my dick's been in your mouth.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's like stuff like that, it's like, when you're like, God, how old was I? Like 20 at the time. And it's like, you're in 20 and, you're like learning about like different groups of people. And like, I've never had like a coherent group of friends. It's always been like a bunch of different groups. And, it's like, that just happened to be one of the groups of my friends at that time. Right. And then you see that kind of stuff. So yeah, the full thing was like, I think we were walking out. It was summertime, and they walk by. It was his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, and they had some beef. And so some kind of argument came up where this ex-boyfriend said to my friend, how does it feel knowing that my dick's been in your girlfriend's mouth? That was where it came from. And then they like got into a physical fight, and then he beat the dude up and said, next time you tell her my dick's been in your mouth. Yeah, it the whole thing was bizarre back then. It's bizarre to me now for sure. And so it's like, to see that group of folks, and what I ended up thinking about, actually you reminded me, was that later when I was at the hospital, this was like years after, I remember like, just like looking at the hospital census and like, seeing, I don't know if it was her, but like seeing the same name in like labor and delivery. And it's like, wait, she had a baby at this hospital? What?
I mean, it's possible. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the whole thing in Chicago is like, it is kind of a small community when you get to certain parts of it. So.
Now, somebody had asked, how does medication for calming anxiety work? I take it sometimes, but I can't fully comprehend it.
Yeah, so depends on which medicine it is. So if it's benzodiazepine, there's a thing in the brain that is an inhibitor. And so, let's see. What it does is that like all these medicines act on the brain, right? And so they go into your brain and they bind to these receptors that calm the brain down. They're inhibitory, so it kind of like slows down the signals that go into your brain. And so that's how they treat anxiety right now. Actually, those medicines are also used to like stop seizures and like at least in the setting of somebody seizing for like 20 minutes, there's no max dose. Like you give it to them until they stop seizing. There's obviously a max dose if you're not having a seizure, but that's how they work.
Huh. Well, there's not really any other questions here that aren't dumb. Sorry, guys. That's what happens,
Let's see, I'm trying to... why is it bad to overexert myself during exercise? Well, you can easily tear something if you did that. Or you can snap a couple bones and dislocate something.
Yep, that can happen. I've seen that happen in the gym.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the powerlifting gym, you see some crazy stuff. And, like sometimes you'll see people with, like, nosebleeds after, like, a deadlift max. And that's just because the blood pressure has gone up to, like, 700-800. And it popped a couple blood vessels.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know why that had happened. I always assumed it was like, like smelling salts, because sometimes people will take that before like a big lift.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that would cause like a nosebleed. I think it can, but like I don't want to sniff. What is it? It's like ammonia and something else.
Yeah, I think it's like ammonia nitrate.
Yeah, all I know is it smells putrid.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, it just smells like big chemicals.
Yeah, it goes like directly to the back of your head, and it's like it. I don't know. It never really worked for me because it was like you sniff it and you just get pissed off, and then you pull like 800-pound deadlift or something. But like I don't know. I remember smelling it. I'm just like nah, I'm not messing with that.
Don't they use that to like wake up unconscious people though?
Yeah, so it's like what they call like noxious stimulus, and so like they'll give them something to see if they react, and if they don't react, there could be like brain damage.
Oh, well then.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that would exactly. So that's an indicator of brain damage if you don't wake up after having that whiffed under your nose.
I mean, not necessarily, but they are looking for like the response and to see like because like they'll try to like poke you and to see if you do anything. If you don't do anything, that's bad, because typically like somebody who's like conscious and doesn't have anything happening in their brain, like they'll like pull their hand back or something, right? And like those are like just typical reflexes that you get. But if there's no reflexes, then you might have something happening up there.
Okay. Hold on, I just saw a meme. With a picture of you, and it had to do... A furry had sex with 20 different people at a convention.
Oh, no.
This is what happened to his liver. NM is a 25-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with jaundice, the yellowing of his skin.
Nice.
NM, is that Nightmind? That's the only other... That's a YouTube furry, Nightmind. He does like horror stuff. Alternate reality games and stuff like that. He's a furry.
Okay.
Super nice guy.
Does he appear as a persona in his videos?
Yes, he has a four-eyed cat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Cool dude, honestly. I got before the world ended, I went to PAX East in Boston and got to hang out with him for a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only
furries are everywhere.
The only convention I went to, I went to two. I went to VidCon. VidCon was super fun. And then I went to BlizzCon in 2018 when that was the one where they announced the Diablo Immortal.
The mobile one, right?
Yeah, where everyone like booed,
boy.
and then the dude was like, "What? Don't you guys have phones or something?" And it was like, "No, like we were all waiting for Diablo 4, but all right."
When did you go to VidCon?
2018.
2018. Did I go 2018? I don't think I did. I can't remember. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, I was just starting my channel.
Ah, okay.
Like restarting. No, I went to that one. I just don't even remember what I did. Damn, feels like a million years ago now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna go last year, but I had like the scheduling conflict, and like I don't know, like what is it? I met up with Wang earlier this year. If he was
he was in one of your videos.
Yeah, and then like I think he was at VidCon last summer, and like all this other stuff. Like I was totally gonna go, but like I think that was when I discovered some of his videos because I was like looking up Chrono Trigger stuff, and then like you just like stumble on his videos and just like the rabbit hole of like all this internet stuff. It's like, hey, I remember that thing from like 15 years ago.
But yeah, I had God, isn't Wang's like out in the city?
Yeah,
I gotta like reach out to him at some point. But yeah, no, he was at VidCon last year. I remember going to a house party and seeing him there along with like, you know, a bunch of other YouTubers. That's basically what VidCon is. You don't go for the convention. I don't think I've ever been on the convention floor.
Oh, really? Yeah, the actual convention, it was okay. But then, what is it? We had like all the education YouTubers, quote unquote. Like they had their own event, like right the day before the actual convention. And then like I met, Vsauce, God, who else? Smarter Every Day. It's Okay to Be Smart. Like Physics Girl. Right. And then there was like a couple like parties, but then I tried to like, what is it? It was like some film stuff I wanted to like, some film people I wanted to talk to and like potentially collab with them, but then found out I was like, can't afford the rates that they're looking at.
Yeah, I've never been in the convention at VidCon, and last year we couldn't do like the meetup at the convention. We would have gotten kicked out because we brought such like we did it at a park nearby the convention. Literally, we were standing out there and just children just form from the ether and their parents. And I talked to like fans' parents, and they're like, "We really like what you do." I'm like, "Why are you watching my content?" But okay.
Yeah.
But I always mean to go to the convention. I just don't.
Yeah, it's like what, $200 or something, right? And it's like,
yeah, it's some crazy money to go.
yeah, and like I don't know, just flying out there, it's like a 6-hour flight and all that. But I don't know, it's just fun connecting with people because it's like, the day-to-day work that I do. It's like everyone is. It's actually it's almost all boomers, and so it's like. But like a lot of them, like they're in tune with like what's happening. They know the memes and all that, which always surprises me. But, sometimes they'll Facebook meme and you're just like, that's a boomer meme for sure. But some other ones, like, they have some pretty spicy takes and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't expect that. I always like reaching out to YouTubers because I know it sounds so cliche, but they get it,
Yeah.
And I try and like I go to a real normie art school, so people don't know. I mean, they don't know what normie is.
Oh yeah.
Or they're just like they have no idea what weird meme. Like I don't even know what's popular right now in terms of memes. Oh, like the two TikTok guys where they're like Da Vinci.
Oh God.
Like
yeah, that
I say that like who's gonna get that? Everybody's gonna think I'm weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always like that's why I personally would go to VidCon. I don't think I'm gonna. I mean, obviously not now because pandemic. But I don't know if I'd go again. I think I'd much rather. I don't know. Probably stay on the East Coast. Try and find other YouTubers here. There's like in California, all the YouTubers hang out, but on the East Coast, nobody like reaches out And I'm just like, that needs to change, personally, I think. But
yeah, and like I don't know, like there's so many different cities, whereas like on the West Coast it's like so spread out because LA and San Francisco are like what 5 hours apart.
yeah, but then like most of the YouTubers are in that
Yeah.
general area. But it's like you're in DC, I'm in like New York, out of the city. Wang is in the. I mean, they technically wouldn't call. I think he's in Brooklyn or Queens, but they don't call those boroughs the city. They don't count that. And then like my boy Leon Lush, he's all the way up in Boston. So it's like everybody's very spread out.
Oh man, I should probably reach out because I'm actually heading up to Boston in like a couple weeks. Got actually that longer form content will be a patient up in Boston actually. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Leon's out there, and he's a great time to be around. I love Leon. He's like the dad I never had. I love hanging out with him.
The one thing is like some of the older YouTubers, like I think Wang and I are probably similar, if not the same age. It's like sometimes I feel like a boomer because like you see these like TikTokers come up on YouTube, and it's like, damn, you were born in like 2004. Like what? Just like I was.
Dude, I feel like a boomer. I don't know who they are.
Right, it's like
I constantly keep having to look, like, what's a Charlie D'Amelio? I have to look that up.
Yeah, and what is it? She was. I think she was the one born in 2004, and it was like, wait, like that, like somebody born that year is already 16. It's like, wait, I was already more than 16 in 2004.
You don't give off like a boomer vibe. You're like. You feel not old. I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound rude, But like, I feel old at like 22, so it's.
Oh man, yeah, it's I don't know. It's probably because of the shit posting on Twitter, I'm guessing.
Well, yes, this has been brilliant, Dr. Bernard.
Oh
Bernard,
yeah,
Chubby Emu.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at Chubby Emu on Twitter, and then the YouTube channel is also named Chubby Emu. The only thing that I have on social media is that's not Chubby Emu is my Instagram. It has to be Chubby Emus with an S at the end because someone actually took the handle and I can't get it. Oh, and then
sucks.
the TikTok too. TikTok, somebody has Chubby Emu, so I think I'm Chubby Emus, but I haven't posted anything on there.
Well then, ladies, gentlemen, go out there and go check out his stuff. He's great. I really enjoy his content. So awesome. Thank you for being on, and thank you for listening to Explain It Slowly. Goodbye.